Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Block Party Podcast with your host, Truth Blitz.
And your boy, Crypto Blood.
And today we're going to be talking with David Siegel of the Pillar Project. And we're going to be talking about a few different things, about the importance of taking back our personal data.
Yes.
Some things that are going on in the space, what's going on with Pillar.
This the story of Crypto Blood and Truth Blitz. Ask them a cliff high what the truth is. They was just talking about the blockchain. That's when they heard Janet yelling and the cops came. They said, give me all your Bitcoin and lock aim. Then Jamie Dimon showed up and the shots rained. So they hopped in the Lambo and took off fast. Welcome to the Block Party Podcast.
David, how you doing?
Hey, great to be with you guys.
Thank you. You too. So I guess we'll start by just, quickly going over your background and, what brought you to, to the space, I guess,
Sure. I was in Silicon Valley for 20 years, an entrepreneur, and started a bunch of companies. Many of those failed. I'm the first web designer in the world. Wow. From 1994, and wrote the first book on web design. And then so I'm kind of like an entrepreneur who's looking for a big wave to surf. Mm-hmm. When I see one, I paddle fast and try to get on it. So the World Wide Web was my first big one. There was one before that worked out pretty well, actually. And then there came the semantic web, and I wrote a book then in 2010 called Pull, and that wave wasn't very big, and it kind of fizzled out. But the book was good, and it was about personal data. It was about the concept that I was already 10 years old that I've been talking about, called the personal data locker. So then a couple of years ago, when the crypto wave came, the blockchain, I jumped on, and I've been paddling hard for almost 3 years now.
So you didn't invent the internet with Al Gore, did you?
No, Al Gore did it all by himself. Actually, he didn't need any help from me. I invented a bunch of techniques for web design.
Okay, cool. I'm a web developer myself, so
web design.
That's pretty cool. I'm a web developer myself, and I didn't know that about you, so that's interesting to know. But I'm glad that we have people like you in this space where you have some experience with startups. And, for me, that's what I look for, management that really knows how to scale up. I've had 2 startups myself, one still going, one failed. We couldn't get any real funding behind it, but it's a hard task to complete and really get through. But I'm sure you're very excited about how cryptocurrencies really lowers the barrier to entry for great ideas as yours. You were able to kind of get your ICO going and raise funds and get going, right?
Right. There were about 950 ICOs last year, and we were in the first 20 or so. We raised money in July, and even today, Ether, although it's down a lot, it's still up quite a bit from where we raised. So yeah, we have the funds to pursue our dream and build the Pillar wallet and the Pillar ecosystem. And we're doing it mostly in London. You could consider me kind of a regulatory refugee.
Yeah.
Here in London. It's a good place to be building. And we're also opening an office in Vilnius, Lithuania, to do more development there.
So tell us about Pillar. What is this great project? I have a lot of Pillar. I'm really believing in the project long term, I should say. And tell us about Pillar. Tell the audience. I'm sure most of us know who's listening know about it, but kind of give us a quick rundown.
Sure. So it came after a big insight I had about a year ago that the wallet was going to be the center of your world. That kind of in the way the browser is for the content world, that the wallet will be for the value world, right? Every time you go to exchange value, you're going to need a wallet. Wallet has to be very secure. It's a very different product from a browser. It's also very different from an app, and this is important for people to understand. If you have an account on Coinbase, Coinbase is a centralized exchange, and they don't have a wallet. They have an app that lets you log in to their system but they have your private keys. And if they get hacked, you lose your money.
Right.
And with a wallet, you have your private keys. And that's a critical difference because that makes you a node in your own network. And there's no Mark Zuckerberg at the center. There's no banks, there's no governments in the middle. We are building open source software that you'll download from the app stores onto your phone, and you'll use it to protect and manage your own data. So it's far beyond a normal crypto wallet. Actually, if you scroll up there, CB, right there, that's kind of our premise right there, is that without Pillar, you're a node in everybody else's network.
Right.
And you have an account on all these big places, and they value your account, and they make it hard to leave, and they keep your data, and it's very sticky because by design. And with the Pillar wallet, you'll be in the middle, and they will be around, and you'll be able to extract your data anytime. You'll keep your data. For example, in the United States, I assume much of your audience is American. In the United States, it's legal for a drug company to purchase your entire history of prescriptions. Now, it's not that difficult. They aggregate all your prescriptions, no matter how many times you move or where you are. $700 buys all your prescription history, and any drug company can legally buy that. Legally, you can't. You're not legally entitled to your own prescriptions. I am not kidding.
Wow.
That's disgusting.
So no amount of money will get you your own prescription. So the goal of the Pillar wallet is that you'll aggregate your data every time you use it. You'll keep it. We won't have a copy. It'll be encrypted, and you'll have the keys, and you'll get more and more and more of your own data. And then magically, maybe advertisers won't have quite as much information about you and won't be able to predict your next move quite as well.
So in the medical realm, that is, to me, going to be a huge challenge. So explain how do you go about even breaking that paradigm?
It's not going to be easy. There's a lot of legislation. There's mountains of legislation. But, you know, we've got a few things on our side, right? So we have GDPR in Europe. There will be more data protection and privacy rules coming in the United States. More and more of HIPAA already protects customers' and patients' rights. And so you'll, at the very least, guys, at the very least, you'll be able to get copies of everything you do when you deal with the healthcare system. And you'll keep copies of it so that you'll build up your own personal data locker. Now, this is not a new idea. Google and Microsoft have both tried this and failed. So why would we do it? Well, again, you know, this is just your software that you hang on to, and it will have, you can hire your own AI bots to help you manage it, and that's up to you. If you don't like the bots, then fire those bots and get some other bots to help you. So eventually, you know, this is pretty valuable stuff, right? Most companies would say that the customer data is the most valuable asset they have. And this you'll be able to aggregate in your wallet and manage. Now, things, you know, in the medical realm, there are plenty of laws that say, well, they have to have a copy too, and they keep it for 10 years and whatever. So we'll have to deal with all that one step at a time. So it'll take years to build this, and I'm not saying that medical is going to be the first application. That's
exactly what I was going to ask. Like that couldn't be your first entry, your beach.
No way.
Okay, good.
The first thing we'll do is basically an e-commerce engine, so you can think of it like eBay, without the profit model, because we're a nonprofit and we don't sit in the middle. So it'll be like eBay, and you'll just be able to trade with other people things. If you're a collector, if you want to get a good deal on a bicycle, on a washing machine, on a pair of jeans, you'll be able to buy things in the Pillar wallet, and we'll be working on middleware that will hook up to many kinds of e-commerce systems to make it easy for those people. So what we call Pillar, it exposes you to the world of offers. So in the Pillar wallet, there are no apps. There are only offers of goods and services. So for example, you want to compare law firms. If you want to do that right now, you'll have to go to a lot of websites and take a lot of notes. It's not directly comparable. There may be some website that somehow does some comparison engine on law firms, but not likely. In our wallet, there are no apps and there are no websites. There's just offers. So law firms, dentists, doctors, consultants, babysitters will all put their service offerings on the platform, and then you'll be able to compare them the same way that you compare flights on Kayak. And this is what my book was about. It's about using the power of the semantic web to
aggregator, right?
Help you get what you want.
Like a decentralized aggregator, basically.
Like
right?
a decentralized comparison engine. But you train it so it works for you according to what you have. You know, the more it knows about you, the more it can help you, and you own it, not Facebook owns it. So there's no back door through which data is going out to advertisers. You know, every time, you know, you do a search on your browser and then on your mobile phone, you see ads for the thing you just searched for.
Right.
Because they've triangulated you. And, in our case, that stuff will be yours and that won't get out.
I've even had it happen where it would show me ads for things I was just talking about.
Yes.
So it's recording. It's
Guys,
happened to me.
I have heard that, but I have no strong evidence that that's true, because you've got to believe that you're going to talk about a lot of things all day, right? And it's going to be almost sure that you're then going to see some ads for something you spoke about. So I'd love to see evidence of that. Many people talk about it. I would look, you know, if you can find some data scientists who've written something up about this, I'd be interested, because I'm not sure that Facebook or anybody else is doing that yet. Of course they may.
Right.
But it'd be easy to have many coincidences.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So now, is this going to be like the base is like the Pillar token wallet, and then these will all be add-ons that you would add to it, or is it going to be new versions will come out with?
No, it's all the same core code. So you'll get a token wallet that lets you manage tokens. Then you'll be able to trade tokens, except for Americans, of course, because we have to talk about how we're going to deal with legislators, but we'll put that off for a second. And then there will be a ICO wallet where you'll be able to buy tokens in new offerings. And one of the things we're trying to do, I don't know if you've read much of my writing, there's the token handbook. Have you seen that?
I've seen it, but I didn't get too deep into it.
So it's at thetokenhandbook.com. And I talk a lot about equity tokens because I think startups should not be doing ICOs, which is more project finance for open source, but startups should be doing equity tokens. And that means their stock, and that means it's not an unlimited raise. You just raise as much as you need to get to the next round in stages. You do staged offerings. And then, so what we're going to bring to that, we hope, and it's not legal yet, but we hope to help regulators give us licenses to do this, is to make equity tokens tradable. That means a micro stock market in startup stock. That's never really happened before.
No, you've had secondary markets, right? Where
it's very inefficient. It's mostly by phone calls.
Right.
The crowdfunding platforms don't let you trade. They just issue.
Right.
So real liquidity in this market doesn't exist. You're going to wait 7 years, if you're lucky, to get liquidity on startup stock.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll be trying to make that market so that you'll be able to trade much earlier. And it will be interesting because we're quite sure we can do it under the existing regulations. That means we can only sell to accredited investors. People have more than $1 million, or in California, $2 million to play with. That leaves out 99% of the world, and that's, you know, we're pretty sure we can do that, but you know, we're trying to sort of take crowdfunding up a level and let people build their portfolios. You know, let the public build a portfolio full of startup stock, and you know, we have some hope that we might be able to convince people over time to one step at a time,
right,
to allow us to set up that market.
There are some legislators that are fighting for, I know in the U.S. anyway, that are fighting for basically, because it seems like there's a lot of overregulation, and A lot. So there actually, I didn't know until recently. I did a video on it that we have a congressional blockchain caucus that is fighting against overregulation. And, you know, I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but it's good to know that we at least have a voice somewhat.
Yeah. There's also the Chamber of Digital Commerce, which we're part of. And they work a lot to educate regulators and legislators. I think it has to come down to legislation, right? Because the regulators tell us, you know, we're just enforcing the laws that were written in 1940. If you want to change the laws, we'll enforce whatever they make.
Right.
So we do have to have conversations with lawmakers.
Right. I mean, and the way I see it, and same as probably just about every one of my subscribers is, you know, this whole, I mean, I get the accredited investor thing, but let people do what they want to do. You know, it's like, why? I don't need a babysitter. It's my money. If I want to throw it out the window, I should be able to do that. And, you know.
Sure. You know, so regulation is always and everywhere a political phenomenon. Mm. It's always a result of some politician having a knee-jerk reaction against something that happened and then getting elected by saying, I'm going to be tough on those guys.
Right.
That's regulation. And so it happened in the 1930s after the 1934, after the Great Depression, that they wanted to stop the snake oil salesmen from selling to widows and orphans. But that retail market doesn't really exist anymore. And that reality doesn't exist.
Right.
So it doesn't make it. The whole framework we have right now doesn't make any sense for this century, and it broke a long time ago. And in my token handbook I have an open letter to the SEC where I say it doesn't make sense to regulate products or exchanges. They regulate products and exchanges right now, and you can still throw your life savings into some penny stock or some NASDAQ stock and lose it all. Right. So how does that help? You can still, you know, lotteries are regulated and you can put your entire paycheck into a lottery ticket. How does this help people?
Right.
Yeah.
So focusing on the products and the exchanges, I just think there's almost no evidence that this is working. Mm-hmm. So why are they doing it? Well, they're doing it because when people want to get elected, they say a lot of, you know, they do a lot of fist pumping and talk how tough they are. And this caucus and the Chamber of Digital Commerce and other people are going to try to help cooler heads prevail and help, I hope, look at everything they're doing in a more evidence-based light and try to do things that work. You know, I'm pretty sure the drug war has made more drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You want to concentrate the amount of THC in a single plant. The drug wars have been the most effective way to do that. They're just getting far more drugs into a much smaller, you know, volume than we ever had before the drug wars, and it's a direct result. So,
yep.
So I think it's time to look hard at what works and what doesn't out there.
Yeah, definitely.
So for that reason, we are going to be very careful about offering an exchange to Americans. One of the worst things that probably came across your radar in the last 2 weeks is that Circle bought Poloniex and they agreed to become a registered exchange, just like the New York Stock Exchange.
Right.
This is bad. This is not bad. This is very bad because now, you know, now that's the slippery slope on which, you know, Genesis and Coinbase and Bittrex and all these other guys
head that route.
Are going to get fully regulated exchanges where everybody's got a broker dealer representing them.
Yep.
And it just looks a whole lot like the 20th century. Looks a lot like the 20th century, and it's going to then take all the small guys out. And so we are not going to push it. We don't want a letter from the SEC saying you're doing the wrong thing. We're going to proactively say we're not letting American exchange crypto assets just because we don't, until we get a no action letter from them. We're going to stay on the safe side. Now, in our wallet, you'll be able to buy a pair of jeans and a bicycle and a vacation, so that you'll be able to spend your Ether on, if anybody will price it in Ether. Eventually, we want to have dollars on the platform. That requires banking licenses. Oh boy, does that require banking licenses. The more of that we can conquer and find a middle ground, to do, then the more our customers will benefit.
So now you talked about, and I talked about that Poloniex deal today in a video that I'm going to be putting out. Now I am of the same opinion that you are. However, I'm hearing a lot of people say that it's going to help mainstream adoption, and I understand it's going to kill the little guy, but do you agree with that? It's going to help mainstream adoption, institutional money come in?
Yeah, I think we are seeing enough regulatory heavy-handedness come in that, for example, the hedge funds now are all going to have special crypto companies that hold on your behalf. I'll come up with it in a minute, but there'll be companies that hold your private keys in some separate, legally okay way, for your beneficial ownership, and all the normal pieces of the brokerage puzzle will fall into place around this. And it's too bad, because it's really not that hard to store private keys. I mean, it's not.
Right. The
more value you have, the more you have to safeguard your private keys and take lots of steps to do multi-sig and break them up, but that's doable.
Yeah.
And you don't need a trustee. You don't need a lot of third parties, because that's what we're trying to not have.
Thank you for watching part 1 of episode 8 with David Siegel, CEO and founder of Pillar Project. Catch part 2 on our Block Party podcast right now. Holla.
Then Jamie Dimon showed up and the shots rained. So we hopped in the Lambo and took off fast. Welcome to the Block Party podcast.